Hello there. This is my 15th edition since COVID-19 arrived, and I've been talking to you about how New Zealand will move forward and the progress through the various levels and the impact on our economy. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Ranson. I'm based in the Wellington region, which is the capital of New Zealand, and operate throughout New Zealand with a global outreach. Now, I'm a licensed immigration advisor appointed by the New Zealand government, specialising in all types of New Zealand immigration apart from refugee law. Now, I've been updating both employers, migrants in New Zealand, and those of you who are sadly trapped offshore. Now, there have been a number of changes to our immigration policies this week, and also announcements by our immigration minister. But firstly, employers and migrants, you need to know what the way forward is going to be, and it's going to be very different from the past, and this is going to impact on the way employers carry out their business. Now, firstly, the migrants in New Zealand who had their visas expiring between the 2nd of April and 9th of July, you had your visas extended by immigration during COVID until the 25th of September this year. And you're receiving an automatic extension at no charge for an additional 6 months, which means your visas will expire in March 2021. Now, those persons who had their visas expiring after 9 July and before 20 December will also be granted automatically a further 6 months. Beware, this is not including your dependent family members who are here with you. They've got to reapply for their visas and pay for them. The visa for the dependents will be one of the most expensive in the world because they're paying the full fee for a 12 months visa. The approach is messy and discriminatory as the dependents are part of the family unit, and this is breaking up the family. Now, immigration is overloaded with immigration applications and are not intending to recruit new staff. So not including the dependents in the 6 months extension is only going to make a further lot of pressure on these new applications going in. It doesn't make sense. Now, any of the visa holders earning over $25.50 per hour gross, the employer still needs to advertise the position. The only time the position isn't advertised is if it appears on the Immigration New Zealand skill shortage list, or if the job is based in a region which is outside a greater city area, there's no labour test needed. But what's behind this is that New Zealand residents and citizens must come first. Now, as previously advised, our borders are closed except for those who are returning New Zealand residents and citizens, partners of New Zealand residents and citizens, and those of you who can claim compelling and compassionate humanitarian reasons for coming here. For employers, if you seek skilled foreign nationals for your projects, do check out if they meet the essential worker criteria or other critical workers pathway. You can get key people into New Zealand. At long last this week, I've received for an employer an approval in principle, the first stage under the other critical workers pathway, and then I got another success getting through the same pathway with their visitor visa and work conditions. So the journey is commencing for these folk. They have 3 months to get here once the visa is granted. So flight bookings and gaining the mandatory quarantine space for 14 days on arrival is next. Now, I've got a number of other critical workers for approval in principles in the system for employers, and I've checked out that they do meet the criteria before I've even lodged it. So, but the process is working. right now, we need a range of highly skilled workers to support the economic recovery. You are needed for company operations that will save and create jobs. For example, specialist engineers for commissioning and installing new plants and equipment. You're not in New Zealand. New Zealand employers are looking for you. Now, another revelation is from the end of this month, proving the skills of the migrant to get temporary work visas is abolished. Instead, the length of time a temporary work visa is issued is driven by the salary offered by the employer for the job. Skills are going to mean nothing, all driven by the salary offer. So anyone earning under $25.50 per hour from in July 2020 is now regarded as low-skilled worker. So this means that outside of the automatic extensions I've mentioned, which has been implemented due to COVID-19, the migrant worker who had previously been entitled to 3 applications for 12 months each will only be given 6 months visa on each occasion to make up the 3-year stay, the employer having to advertise every 6 months. The government is trying to push wages up, and it's pushed along by the unions. Now, the previous process for establishing the period a visa would be issued for was determined by what is known as ANZCO, an occupational classification system which needed updating. And it's been abolished for temporary visas but remains for New Zealand residents. ANZCO has been a problem to immigration for years, as the process was never clearly understood by the case officers who were not trained in business. So the process was continuously tweaked and became an unfair mess. So now, going to a salary-driven process opens the doors for corruption and exploitation of migrants. Look, do be careful. The minister announced this week for those of you that were granted visas to come into this country, and that applies to you that are offshore. He's told you to stay put. You just can't get in. And he's saying, wait. So unless you fit that criteria of an other critical worker, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. Now, investors and entrepreneurs, there are great opportunities and a way to make an impression on the economic recovery of this country. We need you. So let me know how I can help. Now, we at Woburn are a great team of knowledgeable, skilled people with high values. So talk to us about what you would like to achieve with your relocation. We'll assess your prospects at no charge. So until next week, keep safe and healthy, and thank you for listening.